Happy Rom-Com Month, everybody. We are doing 28 Days of Love. Today is day 11. I am your host, Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker. When I speak, my topic is something I call Take the Doughnut, which for me is another way to say carpe diem. It's all about going after the things that you want in life. So it happened where I left an actual donut on a table when I was in college, and that became an object lesson for me and what it looks like to leave an opportunity behind. So I don't want to do that anymore. I want to take the donut. Now, from time to time, I'll issue myself a take the donut challenge. I'll say there's something that I want to do. I'll make it official, make it public, and then that'll keep me accountable to going after it. This time, I'm opening it up to anybody who wants to join. So here we are, we're doing 28 Days of Love. And today I'm sharing 10 things I love about the movie Bull Durham, but I'm not doing it alone. I have a very special guest for this one, who you may know from a variety of acting credits you're going to see all over IMDb. I also know him from Marty and Home Improve as Marty in Home Improvement, but I'm very excited to say that I'm speaking with Jimmy from Bull Durham today. This is William O'Leary, Billy O'Leary, if you will. Welcome, Billy.
Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate the invite. This is great. I'm going to take my hat off now because I don't want to emphasize the calm part of rom-com too much. So, but that was Jimmy's actual hat. All the actors and players stole all their wardrobe at the end of filming. And we got messages from the producers saying, please return again, and nobody did.
As evidenced by the fact that you still have this hat. That's
Still got
Jimmy's
the hat,
hat.
got the whole outfit, still got my glove.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I don't know. How often can they repurpose those specific uniforms, for example? I don't know.
It's not. But it's financial people, quite rightly, wanting to keep track of the finances, and your remuneration for doing the film did not include stealing wardrobe, but we did.
Well, so typically we would get right into the 10 things we love about the film, but um, I think in this case, you were in this film. So tell us a little bit about your background with this movie. How did you get this role to begin with?
Um, by the way, for super fans, if you haven't bought Ron Shelton's book, The Church of Baseball, which was about the making of the movie, which is just such a smart and objective insider's look, because it was Ron, about the entire process of casting movies and putting them together in general, but then specifically about Bull Durham, read it, because it's a great book. Um, I was a theater actor from ever since I was a little kid. I was terrible in school. Sorry, dogs. Yeah. Um, uh, uh, Dad left, mom got sick, blah blah. I graduated high school with a C minus. My mom got me into acting. She was an adventurous woman, born in 1915. Um, and saw the future, particularly for me. And so she got me out of school, and I started acting. And I did theater forever, ever. And wound up in Seattle, Seattle. Went to grad school there, started my first union work there, then went to New York, continued to do mostly theater, a couple of little movies. My first film, another rom-com that really should have been on your list. I'm immensely disappointed.
Which
It
one?
was Nice Girls Don't Explode. You get
I just missed this.
I think you can find it on YouTube. Maybe.
Next year, we're going to do Rom-Com Month Part 2. That's definitely on a list.
Um, and then yeah, I'd been out a lot. I'd been out of town, and I mean, I'd done Broadway, and I was lucky as an actor. And then this came up, and Ron had been looking for and not finding a particular quality. And I had been raised as a Catholic. Like I gave the readings twice every Sunday. I was a lector in the church from when I was a little kid. So I always had that kind of thing. Um, and then tried Christianity, born againness for a while, university, and none of it stuck. I finally figured out why. But when I came in to audition for Ron, um, I uh, I wanted to play the lead role. I wanted to play the Tim Robbins role. So I came in just acting like a complete douche, just a jackass. Um, Ron was a little confused, but then I did the scenes, and I knew Jimmy. I knew I had been I got the quiet Christian faith and belief, the strength, all the things that are positive about Christianity. Um, and uh, and then I said I have an alternative take on the character, and Ron said, "Yeah, let me see it." And so I did the kind of Tim Robbins version, the Nuke Lelouch version of the quiet Christian man. And even I'm a third of the way into my audition, and it's terrible. And I know it's terrible. As an actor, you know when you're terrible. And sometimes you're just terrible, and you try and figure out why. But anyway, I'm a third of the way into it, and I'm just absolutely terrible, and I kind of limped across the end of the scene, and Ron's just sitting back and looking. He says, "Yeah, I'd stick with the first one." And then I got hired. It was my first big studio film. Quick story, fun story.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
So I got to fly down to Durham. I get to fly down to. They're flying me first class from New York to Durham, North Carolina. Probably cost them $1,000 for what was like a $20 train ride. Um, uh, and they said, "Hey, your car's going to pick you up." But Susan Sarandon, female lead in the movie, the star of the movie, actually, it's her story, which is another reason Ron is a freaking genius. Uh, she didn't like her jewelry that the wardrobe had selected. So she had one of those old, like 1950s, 40s, maybe, leather boxes, locked women's jewelry boxes. They said, "Would you go by her place and pick it up?" I said, "Yeah." Went by the place, went up to the door. Michael Sarandon, her brother, comes on out and says, "Hey, man, you doing the movie?" "Yeah, I'm doing the movie." "Hey, congratulations. Hey, love your work." Blah, blah, blah. I take the jewelry box. So I got a rollie and a jewelry box. Go to the airport, dropped off, woof, going through security, put the rollie up, put the leather box up, go through, ding, ding, ding. Gal says, "Sorry, what's in here?" I said, it's jewelry for I'm doing a movie, a film." Um, she said, "Well, I just I have to open this." I said, "Yeah, go ahead." She cuts the tape, opens the jewelry box, and it's giant silver bangles. It's lots of metal. I mean, it would have made the X-ray machine go crazy, right? And then she pulls out a little cloth baggie. This is 1986. She said, "What's in here?" I said, I don't know. See, I'm just bringing this for a friend. I don't. She brings out scissors. She cuts the sewing at the top of the bag, and all this herb pours out into her hand. She says, "You can't take this on the plane. This is in the old days." She's smoking. She's got the beehive going. I mean, at JFK, calls the police. Two guys show up. One guy takes me aside. The other one's questioning her. He says, "So what's going on?" I said, "I don't know. I'm an actor. I'm going to go down. I'm playing a baseball pitcher here, and it's a big movie." And they asked me, I'm like crying, right? And of course, everyone else is waiting to get on the plane. Everyone's watching. And finally, the other guy who's questioning the security agent, he says, "Hey, Joey." My guy says, "What?" He says, "This ain't pot." And my guy says, "What is it?" And the other guy says, "It's that stuff your wife puts in her underwear." My guy looks at me and I said, "I have no idea what your wife puts in her underwear. I swear to God." My guy turns around and says, "You mean potpourri?" And the other guy says, "Yeah, it's potpourri." so, so my guy escorts me onto the plane and says, "There was a little miscommunication here. This young man is going to go down and play a picture in a big Hollywood movie, and we hope he comes back and saves the Mets next year." And I went on down to then go do the movie, and that was my introduction to big Hollywood studio films. True story.
Thank goodness they didn't get you a train ticket because we
Yeah,
wouldn't have this
wouldn't
story.
have the story.
Oh my goodness. Wild. This is exactly why you needed to be here for this.
Yeah,
This is so good.
and that one's not in the book. There are a lot of stories in the book that you're not going to hear anywhere else. But
Oh
that's
gosh.
not one.
Well, I mean, it is so wonderful to be talking with you about this film. The format of this conversation is we're doing a top 10 list. I've got 5, you got 5. We didn't talk about them beforehand, probably should have. So if I'm going to do the even numbers, you'll do the odd. We'll count down as much as we can in terms of
Do I
favorite
have to
things.
find that list?
I think this is a great time to go ahead and do that. I will say that typically, with most guests that I have, narrowing it down to 5 is usually pretty easy, but you were in this film. So, if you feel like you've got more things to say, we will absolutely make space for that. If any of mine start to tread into your territory, just cut me off and
Wait,
I'll
wait. First
find
of
another
all,
one.
first of all, I apologize and I confess. I have no territory.
Okay.
Um, I never took direction well. Um, um, uh, this is the list of 5 things. Oh, about this movie, not about the other movies on your list.
About this film.
Yeah. Oh, I did that. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
All right. Go
So
ahead. No,
I'll do
I totally have a list here.
So I'll do the even numbers, you'll do the odd. If any of mine start to go into some of the things you want to talk about, stop me and I'll pick another thing because I've got backups. I love so many things about this film. Coming up with, 5 things that I loved was so easy. I was able to find so many more. But I actually, for number 10, I actually wanted to start with something you started to reference when you were telling us a bit about your journey with the film. I love the fact that this movie is so much about belief. A lot of romantic comedies don't really have a deeper message under the surface. This one is one of the greats because it really does. When it comes to belief systems, I think just about everybody other than Nuke seems to have something that's like really important to them. We've got for pretty much everybody, baseball is a factor. But Kevin Costner's speech, he's got a litany of things he believes in. Susan Sarandon's got a whole bunch of, different. Annie Savoy has a whole bunch of different things she believes in. You've got Max, the clown prince of baseball. You've got Jose with his voodoo. You've got Jimmy and his faith. When you look at all the characters, so many of them have something that's important to them. And what I love about this film is that not only are those things important to them, but they can all be on the same team together. Like, even though people value, in some cases, quite different things, they all find a way to coexist with that. And I think it's a really a beautiful message and one that maybe we don't even see as much now. So I wanted to put that out there as number 10. And your character in particular, that's so much a part of his story.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now I'm seeing how this is going. I'm getting a little nervous.
Uh-oh.
I was never good in school.
No,
Um,
we can totally do this.
no,
We're
no,
gonna
no. It's
roll with
good.
whatever
It's
you want
good.
to do today.
Yeah, a belief, and then and why are there two different words for belief and faith? Um, One of the things that Ron wanted my character from Jimmy was a sort of absolute purity, but a human purity, just goodness and strength and belief, and wherever that led, that's where Jimmy would go. Annie was always hiding behind her intellectual conceits, and that's why Kevin comes in, Crash comes in, and calls BS. And you see those moments of realization in Susan. Um, um, yeah, um, Tim Robbins, Nuke, believed in himself, in his ability, even when he didn't have it, and had to then accept Crash coming in and saying, you got to change your viewpoint on this and this and this, which is basically from trash to taking yourself seriously. Yeah, look at all the different aspects of faith that Ron wrote. That this movie worked and succeeded. I mean, it's just, there aren't a lot of movies, outside of enormous studio productions, Titanic, Marvel movies, whatever. Not many last 4 weeks. Not many last a month, particularly as an odd sports intellectual rom-com. And I think it's a combination of Ron's having actually made a movie about what we all as human beings do and wrestle with, whatever sort of little escape paths, we take to use and try and get through the world, get through reality. He just covered a bunch of them and made them all in one package. And I think that's why the movie worked originally. I think it's why it really continues to this day. Yeah, there's the fun baseball stuff. I kept wanting to be in more of the scenes with the other baseball players because every actor always wants to be in other stuff. And I understand now the writing process and why Ron needed to keep Jimmy clean. I do wish I'd done that. Sprinklers at night on the baseball field scene. Man, that hurt. Ay.
What a beautiful scene. Oh.
What a great scene. Just boys, good, happy, healthy boys. Nothing weird, nothing bad, nothing ugly. Just boys being stupid and having fun.
That had to be one take, right? Like that you can't
Oh no.
reset
Oh no,
once you flooded it.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, once they go into the water, you just keep them going over and over and over, bring them back to. And we were filming, by the way, in the mountains in October at night. I mean, it wasn't a joke. When you're standing and you're sitting, and then you got to go, you sit for 2 hours, and then you got to get up and go and pitch. I had had massive hip surgery. They dislocated my hip. I was a dancer, and I screwed up my left hip. And they had to dislocate it and scrape it and put it back together. And sitting for 2 hours and then going out at 32 degrees and pitching, man, that hurt. Those guys in the rain, woof. How do we do?
Awesome. Well, let's talk about your first one. So you've got number 9. What's on your list?
For me, it's Susan. Susan was the first MILF. Studio didn't want her. She's too old. You had to have someone who was right for Kevin, but not really if you look at every other Hollywood movie that's been made. The story of how Susan got cast is fabulous. For me, the particularly I think American, not so much European, as American as baseball is, the focus on youth and beauty in youth to expand to a strong, smart, mature woman. It hadn't been done before. I mean, this is essentially a European film, um, which I just think is fabulous. And of course, she was just so fun and vulnerable and smart and sexy that, if you're doing a list of rom-coms, look at the woman who anchored this film. That's it for me.
I, that is absolutely something that I wanted to bring up, and I'm so glad that you did because what a complex character too. I mean,
Yeah,
you just it's like years before we ever saw that again. It's
you
wild
bet.
to me that we were seeing this when we saw this in this film. And for one of the things to be complex about her to be her sexuality, and for that to not there not be a statement about that. It's just sort of part of her character. So interesting to me. I think it's interesting the way that, the film opens and she's saying the things that she worships, and she's got Buddha and Allah and Brahma and Vishnu and Siva and trees and mushrooms and Isadora Duncan and like her sexuality. And there's all this stuff that's all part of her story. And my goodness, they're just not written like that
No, and then
anymore.
a man wrote it. I mean, today a man wouldn't even be allowed to write a movie like that. And of course, that's just a giant shame.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I'm I guess not surprised, but also fascinated that she wasn't the first choice for this. I am so glad we got her in this film.
No question.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness. Well, okay, number nine, Susan Sarandon slash Annie Savoy. Okay, I've got number eight. The writing is so good in this film that there are just certain lines that I had to pull out because I come back to them every time. Um, there's a point when Annie and Crash are having like a real fight about advice to Nuke, and Annie says the road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom, William Blake. And just there's like probably I don't know how many lines worth of the word William Blake. They're just shouting William Blake at each other in all the different intonations you can shout William Blake. And I just thought,
William Blake, William Blake,
hey,
William
William
Blake,
Blake,
William Blake.
what other rom-com are you gonna
No,
see?
you can't. Because, again, particularly in the United States, with the exception of Steve Carell's movies,
Mm-hmm.
those are Crazy Stupid Love and all of those. The United States doesn't do rom-coms well. They're terrible. They're terrible. I mean, again, the Steve Carell movies, they're the only things that come close to actually, this was going to be one of my points. I'll be quiet now. I'm ashamed.
Okay, okay. No, see, this is how it works. We get to dangerously close to the next thing we want to say and we reel back, but we tee up
Yeah.
for the next thing. Yeah, I just it
Yeah. How can,
reminded
how can,
me.
America doesn't tend to like smart movies, and Ron is just a freaking genius.
And just sure enough, it's on my list. One of the things about the dialogue, especially with something like this William Blake argument that's like delivered so fast paced, feels like a throwback to me to like older film, like a His Girl Friday kind of thing, where, the characters are just coming at it. So you have to watch it multiple times to actually pick up on everything that they said. And I think this film actually dips into that world quite a bit. I think
No,
as time has gone on, it's sort of the pace has slowed down a little bit in terms of dialogue for rom-coms, but this one, the clip is so quick.
for a combination of reasons. One, it's really hard for, again, writers who are just not as good to write it. Then it's really hard for actors to execute it in a good and believable way. Um, and then Aaron Sorkin changed everything with West Wing.
Mm-hmm.
He added 20, 25% more dialogue to a 1 hour episode of television. And that changed all of 1 hour television. It hasn't quite moved over into movies yet.
Mm-hmm.
Again, because you need the foundation, the writing to begin with, and then the ability for actors to execute it like that. And Ron was absolutely in between. You talk about Girl Friday, and that old smart, fast black and white pattern that Hollywood just did not embrace for women for another 40 years. And Ron did. Again, another reason it was a miracle the movie got made.
Well, that's number 8, William Blake fight. That's that. So you've got the next one. You're on number 7 on the list. What do you want to bring up here?
I might do 2 just because I already did about half of 1.
Yeah.
Which was the idea of rom-coms. And again, why does the American culture just not do it? Trying to balance drama and comedy is really difficult for America. It's like things don't belong together that seem to be opposites. I don't want to get too political or sociological here, but America doesn't like the mix, doesn't like the blend. That you have guys just being loud and ugly and stupid, and also deeply profound in their relationship. That just doesn't happen a lot, Kevin's all pissed off about the call at the plate, By the way, how R or X rated are we here?
We'll try to keep it as clean as we can. I know the
Then
movie isn't.
Then I won't quote the movie. I'll quote. Oh, what was his name? The announcer up in the booth. Ladies and gentlemen, it appears that maybe Crash has spoken a word that is a no-no around these parts.
That's perfect.
It's really hard to watch rom-coms in the United States. And I think it's one of the reasons that the movie has endured for so long.
Absolutely.
And in so many different ways. Again, you got stupid and you got smart. And that's hard to put all together in a character relationship thread and arc. What do you want to do? Do you want to go on with you, or should I broach another?
Well, let's switch over to, I'll do number 6. So I'm going to bring in, okay, for number 6, I'm going to say that I love that you can see all the conversations happening on the field. I feel like we're really in the world of baseball. It's one of the things that I love about, it's very different. Like, the further back you are, if you're a fan watching, the less you can see of the interplay that's actually happening with the people who are part of what's happening on the field, or the field of play, whatever the sport is. And in this movie, it's like you've got the inner like the inner dialogue that, like, you got Crash or Nuke saying all the things in their head that they're thinking but can't say out loud. You've got all the conversations that Crash is having with the batters to try to thwart Nuke when he wants to sort of put him in his place. You've got the conversations with the officials. You've got
and then
kids from the
classic
stands.
scene, the conversation on the ball mound,
Oh my God, I love it so much. And then you've got you've got Annie getting ball boys to run back and forth with messages to the dugout. I think it just really puts you in that world. I think it's one of the things that I loved about doing a sport. I was a gymnast for a long time, and just the idea that you can hear your teammates, and the idea that you can hear your coaches, and there's something very specific about the sounds of a sport that I love, and this tapped into it beautifully.
No question. It's because Ron lived it. He was a ball player. And he knew all the intimate details, what a really good writer does. The more specific they are, as long as they don't get lost, the more specific they are, the more we go, oh my God, that's amazing. I never saw that, never heard of it. Rather than, a bunch of guys writing and, awesome, but writing another Superman movie. It just different worlds.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know you were itching to get to your next one, so
And
I
of
think
course, I've just polluted everything.
that's how it works. We're
Um,
just flying by the seat of our pants around here because you've got number 5 coming up next. I brought in the
you,
global one.
you talked about faith, and for me, uh, even more than that in the movie, it's about love and all the different kinds of love. Love for sort of the first American sport, America's sport, um, and how it hurts. Um, Not to get too 80s, 70s. Love hurts. Um, but it's what Crash does, what Kevin Costner's character does, he does for love, the love of baseball. And he sacrifices himself to teach the bonehead who has no appreciation, but because of the sport, he does what he can. And also, a little bit of redemption for him. Um, Susan, essentially had given up on love because she didn't want to give over control. She wanted to be a woman in control. And finally, she had to give over to a man. And like, oh, liberals go crazy over that statement. But that's exactly what happened. It's not even just a woman giving over to a man. It's one person needing to give up their armor and give over to another person in a relationship. Um, I just, that dynamic back and forth throughout the movie is I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So you're right. So many different kinds of love.
Yeah.
Even a friend love, I would say, between Annie and Millie, Jenny Robertson.
Yeah.
Like it's to have that female friendship in the context of a men's sports team, I think is an unexpected dynamic to have here.
No question.
So, I love that that's in here as
And
well.
and 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 in that particular relationship, also like obviously, um, Kevin, Nuke, and Tim, mentorship,
Yep.
and that there is maybe sports is the last great venue in which mentorship works. I don't know, maybe war, but when you see the number one quarterback sidelined and he's sick that he's not playing, but he is there every day, every single hour, helping that number two, helping the backup. So look at this, look at this. That is giving over, sacrificing for the greater picture. And that's love.
And even when you say that, if I think about the sort of the management of the team, you got Trey Wilson as Skip, Robert Wool as Larry. Crash Davis is sometimes the player and sometimes giving them advice, and sometimes it's interesting to see what mentorship looks like at that level too.
They
Who's mentoring whom?
they lost the game. All right, this is going to be my number 432. um, um, so they lost Trey, and I knew Trey in New York before the movie. Trey's dead now. Trey was an incredibly generous guy. Um, anyway, so the team was very excited because they got new equipment, baseball bats and balls. And also, by the way, playing with the actual Durham Bulls down there, it wasn't a joke. I mean, you got new equipment. It was a big deal. Anyway, so the team loses, of course. Trey's all upset. Kevin's shaving after the game at the sink. The other guys, all the guys, us, we're in taking showers. And Trey has no idea what to do. And Kevin's looking in the mirror. He says, scare him. And Trey says, what? Just scare him. They're kids. Just scare them. Trey just goes, you see him just go, scare him. Yeah. And the next thing is he's got an armful of all the new baseball bats and he throws them into the tiled bathroom shower where we're all naked, by the way. And those bats are going bangity, bangity, bangity off the tile and going everywhere. We're all jumping. And then he loses his crap. And it's just a fact. And that's right. You know, there's essentially peer-to-peer, but player to manager. And the player's saying, scare him. And the manager goes, yeah, I'm going to scare him. Fun story. All of the team members who were not professional actors were actual Durham Bulls baseball players. The guy that taught me how to pitch got called up for winter ball on his way to the Astros in the middle of filming. It was real to that degree. And so we're doing this giant shower scene. And all of the real sports players, all during the filming, I mean, it's a bunch of jocks. And again, you know, way before Me Too. So a lot of sex and sex talk running around everywhere, every night in the bars locally. And when it came time, Ron said, so who wants to get naked in the shower? And all the pro baseball players were like, oh no, man, I'm not doing a porno. No, that's bullshit. No. And all the actors were like, yeah, I'll get naked. I'll get naked. Just the cultural differences were that was just a really fun moment in the making of the movie.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
And so yes, that is my butt.
The people wanted to know. And the button on all of this is that like scaring them includes using the word lollygag. Like,
Lollygaggers. I don't even know if Americans even know where that word comes from anymore. But yeah.
Oh,
does that make them right? Lollygaggers.
Yeah. I mean, it's so good. Oh gosh. Okay. I'm going to take this in a different direction with another very impactful line for my number 4. I think the first time I saw this film, I was a teenager, and this line at the end of the film floored me, and I've never stopped thinking about it. Annie Savoy says, I believe it's in a voiceover, the world is made for people who aren't cursed with self-awareness. It is a blink you miss it line, you know? And I just thought, whoa. And I think, you know, in terms of the movie, it's like, is it easier to be Nuke or Crash in this world? Is, you know, if you break it down like that. But if you've given even a moment's thought to who you are as a human in this world, there feels like there's truth to this idea of being cursed with self-awareness. Is it better or worse to like work on yourself or to know who you are or to, you know, like, is that an advantage or a disadvantage? I thought it was such a poignant line, and it's like, you know, not even the most quotable thing from this film, but man, it's good.
No, it's you know, and if you go back when, and I forget, I'm trying to remember the original quote. Easy enough to find. If ignorance is bliss. Sorry, I lost for a second.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The rest of the line is, 'tis folly to be wise. And in the movie, Ron shows both, and they're both on their journeys, and one is wise and the other is not. The other one might become wise at some point. I don't know how many more times he's going to say the word Blaupunk.
You don't
You
need a
don't need a
quadraphonic
stupid
blob
Blaupunk.
punk.
You need a fast. You need a curveball. Um, uh, yeah, self-awareness is, and it can become debilitating, uh, which is why I think art exists and why we're going to go into a long, dark period here for a while because there's very little self-awareness going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's profound. He how can he write commercial and profundity in the same package? I don't know how he does it.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So that for me was number four. Okay, you've got two more to go. So number three.
Really nervous.
I mean, the stakes are getting higher here, I think we can all say.
I know, and I'm totally gonna just lose the bed. Um, I was going for general themes more than the specifics.
That's okay. Yeah.
Um, but what he writes is so many different types of relationships. What Ron writes in the movie is different types of relationships. You know, in a rom-com, so traditionally you get, you know, our A leads, right? And everything about, and and you pointed this out earlier, you know, all the relationships about around baseball, the conversations happens out on the mound, the notes being passed between lovers during the game about how to improve their batting stand. All of those relationships are expressions of love, of investment in other, communal, one-on-one, um, and how you make a jock movie about that with women involved. Again, you can do it in, you know, you can do it in wartime, um, sacrifice, etc. This is just a more subtle look at what we're all trying to do every day.
Mm, yeah. Ah, beautifully said. Um, okay, so I've got number two. Any chance you were going to talk about the huddle on the mound for number one? Because that's what I'd like to bring in here.
Do that.
Okay.
Also, yeah, because I already blew that one.
No, that's okay because we didn't get
No,
into it.
actually, you did. That's right. No, you did. Because Ron wrote smart and stupid wins, which you already just brought up.
Okay. Well, all right. So you'll have number one, but I'm going to throw in at number two. We
Oh,
quickly referenced it earlier, but the huddle on the mound is one of the funniest scenes I think in any movie anywhere. Um, to for like you see it all happening. You see management being like, "What's going on out there? Go fix that." And then for Crash to sum it up and say, "Okay, Nuke's eyelids are jammed. I think we need a live rooster to take the curse off Jose's glove,
his
and
glove.
nobody knows what to get Millie and Jimmy for their wedding." Like this is what the game has stopped for. You know, this is what's top of mind for these guys. And then to see Larry break it down, he's like, well, you know, candlesticks, are they maybe place setting, silverware, are they registered anywhere? And that's like the solution to the world's biggest problem, sort of. I mean, you know, they don't go on to win that game, but it's like the most ridiculous conversation to be having in the middle of a game and so
And
perfectly ties everything together. It's great.
completely agree. And what is it based on?
Everybody's beliefs.
Before that, sorry, that was a terrible question.
I
Um,
was just throwing something
I'm
out
just
there.
panicking about question number one. I'm overcompensating. Um, no, that tens of thousands of people over 100 years, hundreds of thousands of people over 100 years watched those conversations happen out there and had no idea what was going on in it. And for the first time ever, Ron burst that bubble. And it was and to then flip it and say it's not about the game, it's about everything else going on. It's basically a therapy session. That's pretty fun. But again, it was that, God, what do you think they're saying? Well, and then there's going to be the dad or the guy saying, well, I think they need to correct the second base position. Blah, 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 blah. No, man, it's about candlesticks.
It's so good. I just the I guess subverting of expectation is what's happening there. I mean, it's like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And that no one had ever, at least that I'm aware. I mean, maybe one of the old 40s movies did something like that, but I don't think so.
Yeah. I love it. Well, we're trying to stall for time here, but number one falls to you. Um, it could be anything really, something specific, something general. It could be your favorite story from working on this movie. I'm filibustering until I see the light in your eyes.
Um, uh, I'll tell a story. I want to be a little careful.
Okay.
Um, Guys, jocks, real jocks and actor pretend jocks. By the way, one of the things Kevin was so fabulous about, because really on a set, particularly in this instance, because Ron was quite knowledgeable. He had directed for Roger Spottiswoode, second unit. He knew cameras. He knew all of that. So he knew all the baseball. He knew his script. He cast it right, and all he had to do was the filming, and he knew how to film, and he knew exactly what he wanted. But Kevin, the big actor star, tends to be the person who has control of the character of the set. How are the energies going to go? And he was also starting to want to learn about directing, which obviously he went on to do fabulous. The respect between those two very alpha men just made the set really smooth. A lot of practical jokes. Setting the other players, get a player involved in a conversation, particularly if it was one of the gals that would be groupies on the movie set. Get the guy in uniform and set his shoelaces on fire. Stuff like that. Putting Vaseline inside a player's glove. Boys. One of the actors was a New Yorker. I don't want to give any more description. I'll just say a New Yorker. Very much a guy's guy who started dating a local gal. He was he was horrible, gross about what was happening between him and the local gal, who looked quite young. People got tired of it. And about 4 o'clock in the morning, we're filming. And a tall, very dark black man in a suit. Again, this is before computers. Oh my God. Black man in a suit. Smaller white woman in a suit, both carrying file folders. Came out onto the set, said, who's in charge? And Kevin comes on over and Ron comes on over, and there's a discussion on the ball mound. Nobody knows what they're saying. And we all kind of, we're creeping in. Kevin or Ron turns around and calls for this actor. And they're talking to him. We move on in. And then they ask him to turn around and put his hands behind his back. Statutory rape. the girl he'd been dating was a tobacco vice president's daughter, and she was underage. That is not taken lightly in a small town. He's in full uniform, makeup. He's crying. Makeup is just running down his face. He says, I can't get away. I'm wearing cleats. You don't have to cuff me. We all go out through the tunnel, out into the parking lot, and there's the Entertainment Tonight crew. Full lights, cameras. They had gotten two police detectives, the tall man, the shorter woman, to come out to sell the joke. He didn't know how old the girl was. As it turned out, she was not underage, but they said she was. They called him on. That was the level of edge on a guy's movie set.
Wow.
It was not a joke.
That's serious third-party involvement
Woo!
from a practical joke standpoint.
Woo!
Wow.
They didn't pull punches, man. They didn't pull punches.
Practical jokes on set. Wow.
Um, the
That's
last
the most
story,
elaborate one I've ever heard.
yeah, I know. It was
That's a lot.
a big deal.
Yeah.
The last story I have, if you want to keep it or you can get rid of it, is and it has to do with Ron directing his next huge #1 movie. When I did my audition, Ron wanted to know if I could play baseball. My dad had caught for Notre Dame, also quarterback for Notre Dame, and I said I don't have a 90. And again, I was trying to be Nuke. I said, yeah, I don't have a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, or I'd be paying for the Mets for $1 million a year. But yeah, Dad taught me how to throw. That was good enough. I had no idea how to throw. They fly me down there. They pick me up at the airport. They don't take me to the hotel room. They don't take me to the business office. They take me to the ball field. And I instantly demonstrate my absolute and utter lack of ability to play baseball. Ron was really pissed, as he should have been. And then I learned how to throw a baseball. I was always very physically gifted. I was very lucky. I had a great teacher who made enormous amounts of fun of me, the guy that subsequently got pulled up for pro ball. And I was able to finally throw a baseball. My form was great, didn't have quite enough linear energy on it, but the form was good, and I could put it 50% of the time. If the catcher said up, right, up, left, down, right, down, left, I could put it there. Ron went on to write and direct White Men Can't Jump. And when it came down to the finals for who was going to be cast, all the actors had to come out and play with the It was either the Lakers or the Clippers at the ball courts in Venice, because he was never going to let an actor blindside him like that again.
This was the Billy O'Leary clause in how to cast a movie.
Never let that happen again.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so this is our top 10 list. This is what we love about Bull Durham. For those who are listening, what do you love about this film? There's a lot of stuff we didn't even mention here. So many things. So feel free to share in the comments, everybody, what you love the most about Bull Durham. But before we close out, Billy, any last words you wanted to say about the film, or things that are coming up for you, or anything you want to direct us to? I'll just give you the floor.
Thank you. I'd really like to do that. Life has been a little crazy the last couple of years. Sold my house in Topanga, California, that I'd been in for 35 years because I was worried about fire danger. I'm going to move to the Pacific Northwest, which is where I started my union work on stage, and I think I'm going to try to go back and try and do theater again. See if I can still actually hold up a 1,000-seat house. It has its own particular set of skills. I want to knock the rust off and see what happens.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Good luck with that. I lived in Seattle for 8 years. So it's been a minute since I've been there. I feel like it's probably changed a lot even in the last several years since I've been away. But what an adventure to go back and go into
Yeah,
theater.
yeah. See what happens. I'm sure I won't recognize anything. My son is up there, and he's starting his new medical practice, and his family's up there, and so I think I'm going to go back to sort of where I started.
Amazing. Well, good luck with that. And
Thank you.
hopefully when it gets going, you can post about it or something and we can all follow that journey or attend a show.
Thank you.
Um, So, for those who are interested in more of the rom-com month coverage, the next film, it's going to be day 12. We're going to talk about the movie Love, Simon from 2018. It had Nick Robinson, Jennifer Garner, Josh Duhamel, Catherine Langford. So, that'll be a really fun one. I hope you'll all join me again. And in the meantime, happy rom-com month, everybody.
What are you
Oh,
doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? You're a
just.
big stinky puppy. Get out of here. Come on. Okay.
We need all the kinds of love here
Good
in
boy.
this video. So,
Gotta
in the
have it.
meantime, everybody who's watching, happy rom-com month, everyone. Go out there, get love, get donuts. Bye, everyone.
Love and donuts.